Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. I'm your host, Jerron Harrington, back to with another video. And today we are here for the Season 2 finale of What If Bel Cranel Was Thor? Danmachi, The Last King, Season 2, Part 3. But as always, if you're a fan of the channel and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. As we enter into the Season 2 finale, we focus our attentions on Bel Cranel as he and his friends look to rescue the fox girl Harume from that of the Ishtar Familia in their attempts to create a killing stone, amplifying them with power that will allow them to contend with any of the other familias, one in particular being the Freya Familia. As Bel strengthens his resolve to be a hero, he learns more about the world around him, more about its trials and the darkness waiting below. Does Bel have what it takes to live up to the gods and everyone's expectations? Can he truly be the hero that the world needs? As it seems as though forces beyond his control are now starting to make their move, before long, Bel will find himself in the greatest battle of his life. And will he be able to handle if he fails? For all this and more, stay tuned as we now continue. What If Bel Cranel Was Thor? Danmachi, The Last King, Season 2, Part 3, the Season 2 finale. As always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Bel would tell Mikoto to go on ahead, knowing that she would be the faster of the two of them, as he held his hand into the air. Mikoto would look back to Bel and tell him that she would have 2 signal flares on her, and that when she found where Harume was being held, she would give off the signal for their location. Bel nodded in understanding, as he continued to focus and concentrate. Mjolnir, that had still been within the dungeon, would start to lift and rise, Bel needing to use all of his focus and concentration to summon the mystic hammer forward. From within the bowels of the dungeon, burrowing underneath the surface and rumbling the ground below, Mjolnir would shoot out in the outskirts of Auraria, flying in the air and making its way towards Bel's location. Many would hear the sound of wind rushing forward across the sky itself. Almost instinctively, the hammer, its hilt, would land in Bel's hand perfectly, as he could feel his power beginning to surge and move forth. In the meantime, members of both the Hestia and Takamitsuzuchi familias would try to make their way to the pleasure quarters of the red light district of Auraria, hoping to catch up with both Mikoto and Bel and aid them in their attempts to save Harume and stop the ritual for the killing stone. As Bel made his way inside of the pleasure quarters, facing off against members of the Ishtar Familia, he would soon find himself running into none other than the goddess herself, Ishtar. A few of her servants attempted to jump Bel and ambush him, holding him down and forcing him to look upon the goddess's beauty. Ishtar knowing that with her looks alone she could charm any man. However, when Bel looked upon her, he was not stunned, nor did he feel any compelling force making him want to be with her or to serve her. This shocked the goddess. How was this boy able to resist her? This was something she could not tell at all. That was until she closely examined his abilities, and it was soon dawned upon her that he was blessed with the ability known as Rilis Phrase, meaning that he was able to resist all forms of charm, even by the gods. Her beauty alone would not be enough to sway him, this serving as more of a blow to the goddess's ego than anything else. Even for someone like him, even if he was blessed with the power of Thor, even Thor in his younger years was known to be a bit of a lech, never one to turn down the beauty of a woman. Was this boy so pure? Was he that great in heart that not even the temptations of a woman could dissuade him? This proved to serve as a blow to Ishtar more than anything else. Bel, using the opportunity, would break free from their hold, fighting off her various forces as he continued to make his way through the castle, Bel rushing forth to try to catch up to Mikoto, who at the same time was facing off against other members of the Ishtar Familia. While trying her best, they had the benefit of being boosted by Harume's power, and in the process, they were able to use their immense strength to defeat her. However, Mikoto would not go down so easily, as she used her own magical abilities, at the cost of herself, to defeat those who she could. As Bel saw the destruction coming from the top of the outermost castle, Bel, using Mjolnir, would thrust himself forward high into the air. Hestia and the others, looking outside of the window, seeing him fly forth without hesitation. As he helped catch Mikoto and get her to safety on the ground, he immediately went back forward to rescue Harume. The Ishtar Familia now found themselves fighting a battle on two fronts, not just against that of the Hestia Familia and her allies, but also the Freya Familia, who had now caught wind of the Ishtar Familia's plans of launching an attack against them, and their plans with the Killing Stone. As a result, Freya decided to lead her Familia herself, as she had a little business to settle with Ishtar. In the meanwhile, Bel would finally make his way to the rooftops, coming face to face with the members of the Ishtar Familia. Led by their greatest warrior in Aisha, she warned that for Bel, he needed to have the resolve and the will to win, because if he did not, then he was going to fail here and now. Their plans, their ambitions, they were not going to be dissuaded so easily. And if Bel could not live up to his mantra and truly be the hero that he was destined to be, then he would only be doomed for failure. Bel held Mjolnir in his hands, as it transformed into its second configuration, that being the Odin sword. Aisha would use Harume's power to greatly amplify her strength and speed, as a strong glow began to envelop and form around her. Bel had no choice but to match her, the two of them beginning their battle on the rooftop, neither one willing to back down. The others watched on as Bel and Aisha engaged in their battle. From just outside of the city, Hermes watched on as the destruction was coming forth, proclaiming that Bel was going to be the last hero, that the gods had finally called down for a champion and Bel had been chosen. But no, Bel was going to be more than just the last hero. He was going to be the mortal that would rise above, who would take his throne. He would be the king, the one that would reign above all. Hermes had great faith in Bel, and this was just the beginning of his great journey forward. As Bel and Aisha continued their battle, in the midst of combat, Bel would destroy the killing stone before it could be used. In doing so, the ritual and their plans had all gone for naught. However, Aisha still had the amp she had been given for her power, and as a result, she was still able to hold the upper hand over Bel. Harume, seeing this, desperate, in need of a hero, one to save her from her life, she looked to Bel in that moment and gave her blessing to him, strengthening him, allowing him to rise above and move forward. As Bel felt a glow forming around him, he felt his weapon in his hand starting to change once more, reinvigorated, a strength that would allow it to rise anew. It would begin to morph and change once again, now unlocking the third configuration, that being of the Stormbreaker, the axe and hammer combo. Bel held up Stormbreaker, matching Aisha with her sword, as the two now stood across from one another, a sensual rain beginning to fall amongst them. Bel, his eyes being met with a golden glow, trickles of lightning forming around him. Aisha basked in the heat of combat, the two of them now coming face to face for what was sure to be the final clash. She told Bel that if he was really going to live up to his creed, then it was now time for him to step up and be the hero, be the Argonaut. Bel agreed, and that this would indeed be the end. As he summoned Lightning Bolt, he moved with a quickness as he used the blade of Stormbreaker to break away at the sword of Aisha, destroying it in an instant and knocking her back in one fell swoop. In the process of defeating her, Bel turned back to Harume, holding out his hand to her, asking if she would allow him to be her hero. The fox girl looked up to Bel, her eyes now filled with a strong and passionate hope, now knowing that she too were worthy of such honor. As she held out her hand back towards Bel, Bel helped her to her feet, proving to be that of legend, the hero who saved indiscriminately. And for others, Bel would truly live on to be one of the greatest heroes that the world will have ever seen. In the meantime, as destruction reigned all across that of Ishtar's castle, she found herself being pursued by none other than the goddess Freya. Freya confronted Ishtar, as she was now tired of her antics, and it was time for it to be brought to an end. In anger, Ishtar asked what made Freya so different. Why did she have her eyes on Bel, and what made her more charming than anyone else? What could any man possibly see in that goddess? What did Ishtar lack? As they walked towards the edge of the castle, Freya answered. In the end, she had character, something that Ishtar could never understand. With one slap to the face, Ishtar found herself falling, plummeting from the high walls of the castle, and falling to her death. At that moment, a large light would illuminate the city. a light that stretched from the grounds below to the heavens above. As Bel joined with his other familia, they looked on at the light. Hestia explained that following Ishtar's death, she was sent back to heaven. And once a god was sent back to heaven, they could never return to earth. As Bel looked onward, he would also see Freya far off in the distance, as she gave him a smile before she seemingly disappeared. Harme would be taken back with Bel and the others to their home. With Ishtar now back in heaven, the Ishtar familia was now seemingly dissolved. Everyone was free to go about and do as they pleased. Harme decided that she would join the Hestia familia. As Aisha was preparing to see Harme off, Harme would thank Aisha, since after all, she had been the one that was looking out for her this whole time. Of course, Aisha merely played it off, as she had no real need to want to act in a kind manner, although deep down, she was happy for her friend. As they were leaving though, Aisha, along with her companions, a few of them asked if she was ever going to tell her the truth. You see, Harme was actually pure, in more ways than one. Whenever it came time for her to do the deed, she would always pass out suddenly and never went through with it. Of course, the poor girl didn't actually know that, and she just assumed that everything happened as usual and she just didn't remember. But in actuality, she was still pure by all intents and counts. But for Aisha, she felt no need to say such things, since in her new home, for Harme, it didn't matter. They had accepted her, regardless of what she had or hadn't done. There was no need to change any of that now. In the meanwhile, Bel would meet with Hermes, as Hermes had some news to tell him, telling him of the 3 great quests that had been assigned to people of the world. But of the 3 great quests, there was one that still remained. During the time when the familias of Zeus and Hera were still on the earth, they had accomplished many great things, but there was still one that was left. Far off in an unknown land, there lied a great mountain, and on the top of this mountain, there was a volcano. Slumbering within was a beast, the black dragon known as Surtur. It was the one beast that had never been defeated, not even during the time of Thor himself. Bel asked what was the meaning of this, and Hermes explained that as long as that quest remained, then the world was still in need of a hero. And Hermes believed that Bel could be the one. After all, the power of Thor had not been seen in almost 500 years, not since the last great war. Bel asked more about this war, about who Gorr was. Hermes looked at him with a serious expression, saying it would be wise not to call him by that name, since just speaking it could bring bad luck and misfortune. Instead, they called him the Dark One. Gorr was a fallen god, a god who had fallen out of favor with the others. He believed that the gods were complacent, arrogant, that they had lost their way. There was so much wrong with the world, and yet the gods seemed to waste their time doing trivial things. As such, Gorr decided to take matters into his own hands. He went off into a world unknown and forged a weapon capable of killing gods. And he declared war on heaven and earth itself. Familias, gods, and all the same had to join together to fight, and many were killed. And when they say kill, Hermes did not mean that they were sent back to heaven, no. When Gorr kills a god, that is the end. Their spirit, everything about them is erased from this world, never to be seen again. Of all of the gods, Thor was the only one that proved a match for Gorr the God Butcher. Their fight, the culmination of the war 500 years ago, it ended with the two of them disappearing from sight. It was believed that Gorr had been killed, and that Thor, he too died in the process. But now Hermes wasn't so sure. If Mjolnir now existed in this world, the power of Thor was now reborn, then it could only mean that there was still something else out there waiting. Of course, there were still the three great quests, but for Hermes, in the back of his mind, there was always a bit of uncertainty and doubt. The idea that Gorr might potentially come back. It only meant that Bel had to get stronger, all the more reason. If Thor was the only one capable of matching against that power, it meant they were going to need Bel now more than ever. Because if Gorr were to ever make his return, in the world state in which it was now, no one would stand a chance. And Gorr would not limit his destruction to the gods on earth. He would turn to the ones still in heaven. And there was no telling of what dark age could be led to after that. Bel, he had a lot to think about. A lot was weighing on his mind. The potential for godhood. The potential fight against Surtur, the Black Dragon. And the potential resurrection of Gorr, the God Butcher. There was no telling what this could lead to. There was no telling where this road would lead him. Bel wondered just what was waiting for him. But there was also another situation that arose. Sometime after, the members of the Ares Familia attempted to kidnap Hestia. However, this did not sit over well with Bel at all. The moment he found out what happened, he summoned Mjolnir by his side and quickly left. It didn't take him long to find the would-be army, nor did it take long for him to put the fear of Thor into them, as he took Hestia back to his side. As they were preparing to leave and go home, they would come across a village not too far away. They had stopped over in the town and had helped them with a few issues they had been having with some monsters not too far off. As thanks, the mayor of the town would offer for both Hestia and for Bel to stay and enjoy the upcoming festival with the people. As they did so, Hestia would actually be reunited with someone she hadn't seen in a long time. An older man in the village who was nearing his end of his mortal life. In his younger years, he had actually met the goddess Hestia once. He had actually saved her, and the two of them had actually formed a friendship. A friendship that, for him, felt as though it would last a lifetime. However, as he was about to meet his end, Bel could see the pain and the conflict within him. For some time, Bel walked around in the town alone, as he watched as his goddess Hestia spoke and mingled amongst the people. It gave much thought to what he was feeling within himself. So much so that even as the festival had gotten underway, as Hestia danced along with everyone else, Belle simply stood off alone. As everyone was still enjoying the festivities, Hestia would walk over to Belle and ask what troubled him. Belle didn't say much at first. He never wanted to trouble his goddess about anything, but Hestia looked at him with a stern look. She asked that Belle not hide anything from her. With that, Belle knew that when it came to a lot of things, lying was something that was not his strong suit. He explained that he had learned about the 3 great quests, about the Black Dragon Surtur, and more about the God Butcher. Upon hearing this, he lay his troubles out towards Hestia. There were so many things in this world, so many troubles, so many things that made him unsure. Even now, Belle never felt truly confident within himself the way that he should. What if he failed? What if he wasn't the hero that Hermes and everyone else was making him out to be? All he had ever wanted in his life was to be a hero, an adventurer, one who could save others. And yet, from everything that he had been through so far, he realized he was nowhere close to being where he needed to be, even with the power of Thor by his side. And then, when he saw how Ishtar had died, at that moment, it made him think of his goddess. What if she ever met that same fate? How could he live with himself if they were separated? And even with the power of Thor, even with the potential of godhood at his disposal, could he really leave Earth and everything else behind to become a god? There were so many things he was unsure of, so many conflicting feelings. As he looked towards Hestia, he wasn't sure of where this road was going to lead him, of just where his fate would be. However, Hestia would pull Belle into her arms. As he lied down on her lap, his head resting softly on her chest, she patted his hair as Belle allowed the tears to flow for some time. Hestia understood. There were so many pressures placed upon the member of her familia, one of whom she had come to love very dearly. As the two of them sat there together, Hestia smiled as she gave Belle this reassurance. No matter what the future holds for us, no matter what trials or troubles may come, know, Belle, that I love and cherish you above all others. And no matter what life in this one or the next, I promise you, we will never be separated. This concludes What If Belle Cranel Was Thor? Danmachi, The Last King, Season 2, Part 3, the Season 2 finale. As always, if you're a fan of today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video as we have a new series coming to the channel, that being Konosuba, Mystic Rangers of Misfortune, based on the heroes of the Morphin Grid series, Part 1. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.